Professor Rojas, thank you for joining us. There are a lot of allegations flying around concerning Bolivia at the moment. Some claim election fraud. Others label the situation an outright coup, suggesting the fingerprints of the United States are all over this. How do you understand what's currently transpiring in Bolivia?
Yeah, as you said, it's a little bit confusing, but there are things that are clear. First, there were allegations of fraud in the elections, and the president agreed that the OAS will do a mission and there will be a recount of the process and the votes. And the result was very clear that there was fraud, that the election should be happen again, that you cannot be confident in the results. But of course, that created a lot of unrest in the population. There were a lot of people that were not happy. And some of them were asking for the resignation of President Morales. And finally, he announced that he was going to resign. I haven't seen in the media or anybody that will say that there has been interference from the United States. I think it was an agreement to look at the elections, and the results were clear.
Well, I mean, some point to the role of the Organization of American States, the OAS, which has been, commenting and passing judgment on the election, and some say that's dominated by the United States. So, how do we parse that? How do we understand that?
Yeah, I know that there has been some questioning, but in this case, even the Secretary General of the OAS was in Bolivia a few months ago, and they were with Evo, and it seemed that there were a good relationship between them, and he was very confident that they were going to write a report, and they lay the rules of the game, and I think that's what the OAS report about. So, and not only the OAS, but there were also some reports of independent scholars doing some counting of the votes and comparing the acts, and it was very clear that there was a fraud. I think that very few people will say that there was no fraud.
So let's talk a little bit more about the legacy of Evo Morales, and how do you feel his departure will impact indigenous peoples in that country?
It will be hard for different groups of indigenous and non-indigenous. We will know that in Bolivia there were important changes in the constitutions, and these changes were led by social mobilizations of indigenous in the Altiplano, the highlands and lowlands on Bolivia. And Evo Morales, at the beginning of the program, especially of his presidency almost 12 years ago, implement some of these changes. And definitely, if you look at Bolivia today, it was a different Bolivia of 15 years ago. It doesn't mean that there were no people, indigenous and non-indigenous, that were also unhappy with some things that were happening. One of them has to do with his approach toward nature, his approach toward the environment. They feel that one was his speech, and something different was what it was happening in Bolivia. And there several protests led by indigenous people. This is the case of the Tignis area, and also people were not happy with the politics of land assessment, and especially that was very obvious with the fires that took place recently in Bolivia. So there was a lot of discontent between indigenous peoples too.
Professor Rojas, thank you.
Okay.